Good morning, everyone. It is December 13th, 2022. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see people in the house. We will start with our minutes. Does anyone have any corrections to the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Leiden. Is there a second?
that.
Second by Commissioner Vetch. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to the agenda. Is there anything that needs to be added or removed? Mr.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Leiden. Is there a second?
I'll second.
By Commissioner Ketchmark. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Motion carries. Consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove anything for further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Ketchmark?
Thank you. I'd like to remove letter F, number 1, the approval of the Sheriff's Patrol contracts for the cities for discussion, please. And I'd make that motion
All
to
right.
approve with that one item removed.
All right.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Ketchmark, seconded by Commissioner Vetch to approve the consent agenda with item F1 removed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Commissioner Ketchmark?
Oh, thank you. Okay, well, going back to the budget time, there was a item raised by County Attorney Lutz about what's reflected in this contract on page 3, item 10. I'm using the Delano one just for example, but I think they're all the same today. $86.75 for Delano, 7,300 hours annually. Item 10 on page 3 says that the county shall provide all costs and prosecution efforts with the respect to violations charged by the sheriff in the performance of this agreement. So Attorney Lutz mentioned that they have not received any fees for prosecution, and doing a little checking, they have 3 attorneys and just over 6,200 hours of time spent yearly on prosecuting crimes in the municipality. So we had suggested that the 2 office heads would get together and see if they work anything out, because at that point, there wasn't any money going from that contract that the cities paid to prosecution fees as the contract states. So I guess first thing, I'm wondering if the 2 office heads, and they're here today, had come up with anything since that budget agreement where
Madam
we
Chair,
talked about it.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, Commissioner Leiden.
before we hear from the 2 department heads, we've discussed this many times that what those contracts are do not state the exact cost to the county for the services that are rendered at those municipalities. So that needs to be out there also regarding that it's not the true cost to the county for those services provided.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Ketchmark?
And also the point again is that they both agreed to is that there, as long as we can find in the records, there's been 0 money going to the county attorney's office for prosecution fees. 0. I mean, there's one thing to establish a cost, but there's another to say there's never been on record any money going to the county attorney for prosecution efforts like this contract reads that the cities signed.
Madam Chair, could I be here?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
thank you. And I did have some in-person court, but I knew this was coming up, so I wanted to be here to address any concerns. I brought up during budget times, just as a point of identification, so to speak, that even though the revenue sources for the county attorney's office are pretty minimal, some of the money in the law enforcement contracts is attributable to prosecution services. So I wasn't looking to cause a big fight or conflict. I was just a recognition that some of that money is designated towards prosecution. And the board has been very good to my office with respect to staffing, to the point where I'm able to dedicate, I have 4 attorneys who do misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors, petty misdemeanors. And we are a big county with a lot of young, aggressive deputies, so we have a lot of active traffic stops, a lot of cases that flow from those. And when Commissioner Ketchmark reached out, and these are approximate figures because we have the townships in there as well, I attributed 3 full-time attorneys to this. I would suggest to the board that this is a bigger issue than just what we can address before the board today. I would suggest that we refer this to a committee of the whole meeting sometime next year when we address the rate for the law enforcement contracts going forward, because I have some strong ideas on this. The last thing I want to do is put the cities in a position where they're bidding for my services or bidding for outside law firm services, because then the sheriff's office, they're gonna have 5 or 6 different bosses. If Monticello has a city attorney, Albertville has a city attorney, Delano, St. Michael choose to go with us, they're gonna be getting lots of different advice because there's different ways to do things. And that's the last thing I want. I wanna be the city attorney for these cities, and like I said, the board has staffed me well, and I don't know that we need to go down that rabbit hole of trying to figure out exactly what money is coming towards my office. But I think it's a bigger issue though, what we can address on the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I got my answer. I didn't mean to have you come in and be coiled up to say I was gonna deny the contract, but you said what I was looking for is the appropriate meeting to talk about it, because what it would look like to the 18 townships is we don't have a contract, but our money, it looks like, is going towards the prosecution fee because we can't show a money stream at all from that $86 currently to go to the prosecution fees for the municipalities. And so, yeah, I didn't want to hash it out today, but it was brought up. I didn't know if there was any progress made that I didn't know about, but I think that the appropriate meeting at appropriate time to talk
Madam
about it.
Chair,
Yeah, Commissioner Vetch?
and I appreciate you bringing this up for discussion because I think it needed to get some light, Commissioner Ketchmark. I'm with you. I'm not intending to not support this contract at this time, but it's just kind of like we need to put notice out there to the municipalities that this rate isn't sustainable. It's heavily subsidized on our end, and which creates some inequities across the county by they're being overly subsidized. So we do have to have a bigger conversation to the contracted cities, letting them know that this rate will probably see some changes, especially with the high increase with inflation and the high cost in labor costs that have gone up, patrol cars, fuel, wages.
Can you make a good point? Because we do, oh, Sheriff.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We do have the larger picture of, we do have 18 townships, and so crimes are committed in those too. So how do you, we don't have contracts per se. I mean, we have somewhat, but I
Well,
don't think.
cities are statutorily obligated to have law enforcement or provide for that protection for the city. Townships are not in the same boat, and there's statutory obligations to the sheriff's office. I would just caution you, Commissioner, I think that we try to pinpoint our expenses very well in that contract, and I'd be very careful that we subsidize these cities. I don't believe that the county's in a position that we are subsidizing cities. I believe that in the last couple of years with inflation and squad cars and personnel alone are going to be a driving factor in that formula, but I think that 8675 captures pretty closely, albeit whether there's a revenue stream going to the county attorney's office, that figure is still figured within that 4-page formula that we use. So I don't think that the county is supplementing these cities. I think that it's covering or capturing our expenses. The other thing with these particular 5, I would like to just keep in mind that this was just reflective of an increase. We are in the middle of a 2-year contract with our cities, and I went through to the 5 cities, Monticello, Otsego, Albertville, St. Michael, and Delano, and asked that they consider increasing those hours. So in mid-contract, they decided that in 2023, they would increase those hours. So we are in the middle. So what these contracts represent is just an update in the numbers alone that we would be covering. And I think that we have all had the conversation that as we work through this next year, going into next year's contract with the cities, because when I sent these particular contracts out, there was some language revisions that they requested that came back with those. And I told them, hey, hold on, we're in the middle of a 2-year contract. These have worked just fine since 1969. Don't think anything is going to change. But as we look to 24, 25 in the next contract, that we would like to update those figures. To your point, Commissioner Vetch, I think that it's a robust conversation. Remember that this is a contract with the county commissioners and these cities. I am just the conduit that we're the face of the contract, basically. But I would love for the county commissioners to be out and about as if this is a committee of the whole or whatever this looks like, and we decide to revamp the contract. And obviously, I think that there's going to be some increases. We have to increase. Because our budget has increased, but I think that it will be imperative for the county commissioners to be alongside me, possibly even the county attorney, because I think that oftentimes when I'm in front of a city council asking for hours or asking for the contract, this is just kind of in the background, but it's a very important aspect of what we do. And so I think that it's maybe going to be more of a team effort as we move forward.
And Madam Chair,
Yeah.
in response to that, I agree. It is a team effort from trying to articulate. And the biggest thing when I say that this cost doesn't represent everything is the capital investments that we're having to currently incrementally invest in body cams, RMS systems, and those are to the tunes of millions of dollars that they would be responsible for if we were doing that. And we're not passing on those capital expenses in this contracted rate. From an operational standpoint, yes. But you agree that our large capital investments, we're not capturing a lot of those expenses, and those expenses have gotten to be extremely high, and that's the reason we have to incorporate some of those expenses into it.
And, you know, that's true. And when we look back, it wasn't that many years ago that we said, hey, we're not charging enough. And we put into place just, we need to incrementally increase these rates until we get up to what's fair, because to all of a sudden say, okay, we're charging you $40 an hour and we really, you know, need 80 or whatever. And so we have been working toward that goal. So those are things that, you know, need to be, as you said, addressed. And so they're aware of, this is what it really costs us to be in your city for an hour. So.
Madam Chair. And thank you both for taking time. Attorney Lutz, you had a busy schedule and you showed up here, so that's good. And in regard to the sheriff and the partnership between the cities and the commissioners, looking at this form, it was signed October 18th by the city staff. We're seeing it for approval potentially 2 months later. So going forward, I think there's room for maybe us to talk maybe first before it's presented to the city. I'm kind of wondering about the order of that. It seems like they've already agreed and looked this over, and then we get it now 2 months later, and it's supposed to start in 2 weeks. So as we look at the whole process, I think there's maybe room for when the signatures show up on the lines too.
Delano just happened to be the first one that got it back to me. We were waiting. I think it was Otsego that finally just got theirs back to us last week. So instead of piecemealing these, we just decided, Chief Deputy kept them all in his office until we had all 5 of them ready to go. Basically, it is, again, just a reflection of an increase in hours that's going on. But obviously, we've been preparing for this the whole year. That these conversations started with them a year and a half ago, with me making a lap through the cities and making these requests. So this is just a reflection of the update in hours, and it wasn't any contract language change. There's no business model change incorporated with it. It's just a new reflection of the hours. So I apologize, maybe that's on us, but we just thought that it would be cleaner to bring it all together at the same time than it was to bring them in separately.
And I didn't know that backstory of last week in Otsego. I happened to pull the one out that you must have got back
That was
first.
the first, Delano was the first one.
And that's closest to home in the district, so I thought that's a good start. But I'll make a motion to approve the contract here as written, off the consent agenda here for 2023 with the listed cities.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Commissioner Ketchmark, seconded by Commissioner Delyden. More discussion?
Madam Chair, just with the understanding, can we agree that before the next round of contracts happen, that we can have the committee of the whole or whatever the appropriate meeting is to go over the terms and what we might want to see going forward?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I
Madam,
think that's a good discussion, probably, early in the year.
yeah, Madam Chair, if they do have the committee of the whole, they should invite all the city people to that, so that this conversation
Right,
is done twice.
yep.
Because we won't be able to get all the city council members and mayors, but at least they can get the city staff to start formatting a plan for the cities to deal
Idea.
with.
Good idea. All right, no more discussion. All in favor?
aye.
And opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
All right, moving on to Mr. Ross Dumont, Parks and Rec.
Thank you, Madam Chair,
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning. I think first on the agenda was the request to approve the resolution to apply for a Connecting People to the Outdoors outdoor track wheelchair grant application to the Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails Commission and Minnesota Department of Natural Resources for the Shared Track Wheelchair Program. This program provides the county an opportunity to have a tracked wheelchair, which is a power wheelchair kind of on tracks, like tank tracks, basically. We would have it posted at one of our parks, I think Bertram. Brad's been working on this as well. And that would provide people the opportunity to come for free and use the wheelchair to access the park. It also provides communities kind of throughout Minnesota the opportunity to borrow the wheelchair. I think up to 45 days total we would be without, so that would be able to connect other communities using the same mode.
Madam Chair.
That's great. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Thank you. I know from personal experience that if you put tracks on pretty much anything with an engine, you can go through a lot more. Do you happen to have a picture? I've seen one myself. Do you happen to have a picture to share? I didn't see one in the packet, but
I provided one last meeting.
Oh,
That was the one
okay.
that went through everybody to get a chance to look at. I don't know what happened to it, but
okay, I wasn't sure if everyone saw it, but
yeah,
it's,
everybody did get a chance
Is that
to
one
see
that
it.
can goes from like sitting to standing
Yep.
type, or no, or?
This,
So, yeah.
this one does, it articulates so people can go down a steep hill or up a steep hill, and then the chair stays level. It doesn't go up from a sitting to a standing position. I don't think so.
So the company, the company is Action Track Share. They're based out of Rochester, so it's locally made, at least as far as the state goes. They do have an option that does the standing. That's not the option we're looking at. It's just a little bit outside of our price range and what we're looking at for the budget purposes. So as Ross mentioned, the one we're looking at is it articulates for downhill movement and those kind of things, and it actually is a wider base as well. So it's a little bit more sturdy on our natural surface trails to be able to get to and from. So, but it would accommodate left-hand, right-hand motion. If you're right-hand dominant, left-hand dominant, we're able to move the controls from one side to the next side to be able to make that kind of stuff happen.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Wetter.
Question, you said that other counties then would be able to use this chair also, or not? So then, other parks in Wright County, what would be the procedure? Would you call the Parks Department or something to maybe reserve it, or who transports it to another park or another county, or?
I'll turn that over to
Yeah,
Brad.
thanks, Commissioner Wetter. Great question. So we do have some plans in place as far as for a lease program. With that, luckily, we have some other equipment that we already use, per se, our bike fleet, that we already rent out to other entities. And that one, we transport it. With this one, we would actually require them for transportation. And then if they couldn't do it, we could write in, hey, here's a mileage cost for us to be able to deliver and pick up. So we do have some things like that in place. So yes, they would contact probably myself or either Josh Thompson, who will be on site at Bertram, to be able to coordinate how long they're going to do it. The lease program that we proposed to Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission would include a 5-day period. So that's not including the pickup and drop off. So if they were going to pick it up, drop it off, you're looking at about 7 days total, 5 days of usage. That way they have time to be able to advertise it, let people use it, see if it's something that they like, those kind of things. Because I know personally, if you're like, all right, yeah, you can come pick it up on Friday, but you got to bring it back on Monday, it's not worth my time to go down and get it. So if I could do a 5-day period where I could go down on Wednesday, have it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, bring it back on Tuesday, then it starts to be worth my time to try it out. So that's kind of what we've set up. We would work with legal to make sure everything is good on their end when we get the contracts ready. Again, we mimic some of the stuff we already have in place. But yes, that is all. Those are the tentative plans. Some things could change as we move forward.
Curious about how much does this chair cost? And if it was very popular in renting, would you consider getting another one?
Certainly an option. The chair itself is just over, probably just shy of $15,000, and we're adding some accessories to it to make it kind of, I think you can drive it remotely too. So if the person that is in the wheelchair was unable to operate it, somebody can operate it remotely as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, attendant control, and then the other option that we're looking at is a secondary battery. So when we add everything up, we're looking at just around 20 grand for everything. And the reason why we want the second batteries and the chair that we're looking at allows us to independently charge the second battery. So if you came out, reserved it, and you rented it, and you used it for 4 hours in the park, you bring it back, it comes back to us instead of having to go, all right, is this going to last another 4 hours? We're able to pop that battery out, put it on a charge, put a fresh battery back in, and somebody can take it within 5 minutes and have a fresh charge.
So about how long does that battery last?
They say a couple hours.
So the batteries themselves, they can go, are you talking about just in a charge, or are you talking about until we have to replace?
Until you have to change it,
Okay.
you know?
So per charge, the typical, depending on the use and you're going, if you got a lot of terrain, but on average, it'll go 9 hours
Okay.
on a charge.
I was just wondering because of you also have the carts, you know, that, and the battery ones only go so long too. So that's why I was curious comparing them.
Yeah, and some of the, we're not getting these accessories, but some of them have like plows on the front. I mean, some people use these things and
Yep.
pull things going out too. It's very impressive what these chairs can actually do.
Yep.
All
Well,
right.
thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution
Yes.
approving a regional legacy connecting people to the outdoors track wheelchair grant application, and hopefully we'll be lucky enough to get that grant.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah,
Second.
motion made by Commissioner Delyden. Commissioner Wetter, second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Ketchmark?
Aye.
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 Resolution passes. Yeah, good luck with that. I think it's a great idea.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank
you.
you.
And the second item?
Second item is, thank you, Madam Chair, is to approve recommended changes to the memorial bench policy. Currently, we have the memorial bench policy outlines several different options with trees and picnic tables and benches, obviously. And the bench is probably the most popular since about 2005. We're probably at 25 benches throughout the park system with only one tree. So we're looking to kind of streamline the process. And out of those 25, we don't have any that are at the 20-year contract amount. So just for us to maintain that inventory for ease of use, we do maintain a spreadsheet, but obviously we need to make sure we're handing that down from person to person because that's a significant amount. So we'd like to just streamline that down to 10 years. And also with the cost changes that we've seen, we'd like to increase the cost from $1,250 up to $1,600 for that.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the memorial bench and draft donation policy.
All right.
I'll
Motion
second
made by
that.
Commissioner Delyden, seconded by Commissioner Batch. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, just for reference, if I remember correctly, it's not that after 10 years, the benches are pulled out. It's just when that after 10 years, we're no longer going to be maintaining them. And those benches could last 15, 20, 25 years. So it's just a matter of when they go bad, then they finally get pulled out. So just because it's only 10-year maintenance does not mean that they'll get pulled after 10 years.
That is correct. Yeah, these are recycled material and they certainly could last longer than that.
Ross, you mentioned there was, these benches and one tree, so you're saying that one tree has been planted as memorial tree, or?
Correct.
Okay. So people have that option too.
Yeah, this would streamline that and just do the benches. There's some opportunities with the trees, the maintenance on the trees, making sure that they stay alive and where they're planted is a little more difficult. So that's
Okay.
why we just want to streamline it just for the benches.
Okay, got it. All right, any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Greg Kreiser, attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I have before you for discussion purposes an amended joint powers agreement pertaining to the Wetland Conservation Act. And specifically, staff is looking for direction after talking with the director of the Soil and Water Board as to how the board would like to proceed with our Wetland Appeal Board. It's coming up for renewal right now, I think fairly soon for another year of insurance. This was created, if the board remembers, about 3 to 4 years ago. I think 2018, 2019, we went through a lengthy process of trying to get insurance through MCIT, and I don't believe this board has met that frequently in the past year to 2 years.
Madam
I guess
Chair.
the board members would know specifically, but I have not attended a meeting in at least 2 years. So I guess staff is just inquiring, does the board want to continue with this? Do you want to dissolve it or not? And we're just looking for direction.
Commissioner Vetch?
So, Madam Chair, just for a little brief history, this was created because of a few contentious wetland appeals that
Mostly
happened.
one, I think.
Mostly one, but there was a couple other ones that it was created for.
Yeah.
And since the creation of it, 3 that I know of,
I've only been part of one.
I've
That
been a
was in
part
my
of
district.
2, and then I knew of your 1. That's the 3 I know
Okay,
of.
yep.
So that is met on, and the ones that we met on really were not even contentious, that I don't even think that us participating was even necessary.
I agree. It was not, it could have been handled.
And I think the extra fees that we're paying for insurance to keep this alive for something that really meets almost never is not worth the effort. So I would support a dissolution of the Wetland Appeal Board.
All right, you make that motion?
So,
I'll make that motion.
Madam Chair, the motion next should be to accept the amended joint powers agreement.
Okay, so then I'll accept that motion to amend the joint powers agreement amended.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Vetch, seconded by Commissioner Wetter. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Wetter?
I've been on the WACA for years, and until that contentious WACA application, I would say that that's what angered some of the other county commissioners, and that's how it came, involving the county commissioners. But normally, there's a TEP panel, which is a technical evaluation panel by the state and all that come out, and they usually give it an up or a down on if it's a good project or not. And so I don't understand why the county per se has to be involved. And I would agree that this should be amended to not involve county commissioners any longer. I know there's one coming this Thursday, and it's just you put a rubber stamp on it. So I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. It was, someone didn't really agree with the TEP panel's conclusions, so that's where it sort of started, but, so, yeah, now we can move on. So,
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark.
thank you, and I'm, of course, neck deep in water in District 5, but there's so many entities already that evaluate water matters. If we determine that there's a redundancy in efforts, I'd support, redundancy is like our worst enemy up here. So I would support the motion also.
All right. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? All right, motion passes, and that joint powers agreement has been amended. All right, Mr. John Bowen. Lake Crawford. Crawford Lake, I guess it is.
That's right. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. We're here for the third continuation of the public hearings on the Crawford Lake lid. We had a public hearing on this, as you'll recall, on, November 29th. At that time, I read into the record the DNR report. DNR did not support formation of the lid, really stating that they just didn't have enough information upon which to write a report or to understand really what programs the lid was seeking. There was really no comment at the public hearing in support of the lid. No evidence was provided to support the lid. Pursuant to the rules, it's Rule 6115.0970. The board is required after that public hearing to reconvene to discuss or to discuss denial or the formation of the lid. Based upon the evidence that was received, it's our recommendation that denial be ordered by the resolution, and I provided the proposed resolution to the board.
Madam Chair?
And this is a continuation of the public hearing?
The public hearing, the comment closed.
It's closed.
It's
right.
closed. This is just to approve or deny the lid.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Commissioner Betch?
You know, per the statute, I think it's 103B, they, without any defined projects, creating this lid would have no functionality to it. So for that fact, I'm going to make a motion, Madam Chair, to deny the Crawford Lake Improvement District petition.
All right, motion
I'll
made by Commissioner
second
Betch,
it.
seconded by Commissioner Delyden.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lyden?
just for the public, at some point in the future, they can always bring it back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've had a lot of discussions with DNR, with Soil and Water. We had a nice meeting to discuss the resources available. They're going to look into some studies. They're going to just keep talking with other lake associations, Soil and Water. They understand that they can get another bite at the apple. They're not foreclosed in any way. I think that they have some ideas now on how to proceed. And so we've had some very, very, very positive discussions.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. All right. I would look for a motion then to,
Oh, we had a
We
motion.
got
oh, I'm
that.
sorry.
You got a second?
Went on discussion, forgot. So, yes, thank you. So,
It is a
discussion?
resolution.
Yeah, it is a resolution, so I'll start with Commissioner Delyden.
Aye.
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 All right, resolution passes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Bowen?
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to our items for consideration. Administrator Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Placed an item on for your consideration to schedule my annual review, as we've done every year. It's able to be scheduled as a closed session, as one of the permissible meetings that can be closed. So looking for a date to do so. Had suggested next week, the 20th at 11, but certainly open to other dates and times if they work better for the group.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to do it next week, Tuesday, on the 20th, after the board meeting at 11 o'clock.
I'll second.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Delyden, seconded by Commissioner Wetter.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
you'll provide us with our pick on lease sheets, if you would, I couldn't think of a better name for it.
That's the technical term, yes. I like to always provide you some documents to review prior to the meeting, so I will
Thank
get
you.
those to you.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Thank you. I had a question about the closed session status. Is that required? I just, coming off yesterday where we had the two office heads, elected officials, and we had to leave the door cracked open. What's the difference from that discussion to this one? Maybe that's a little question.
Take that.
I'm happy to take this one. This is a personnel issue, Commissioner Ketchmark. It can be open, but only at the request of the county administrator.
Okay, thank you.
And Madam Chair, the difference is like an employee of record versus an elected official. That's really the largest difference of it.
All right, just fresh off yesterday, just wanted
It
to
can
ask.
be open, but that's only up to Mr. Kelly himself.
And he wants to close. All right.
Commissioner Wetter did.
All right. No more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. This meeting is approved. Second, authorize signatures on statement of work from Sierra Cedar for implementation of ERP Phase 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I provided in the packet, as you noted, the statement of work received from Sierra Cedar. This again is the firm that has helped us get our ERP project Phase 1 implemented. We had planned this for 2023 as part of our capital improvement plan and our budgeting process moving forward. So to move forward, the next step would be for approval of signatures on this document to move forward, at which point we would then plan to kick off late yet this year and initiating the project in 2023, planning for a go live first pay period in 2024.
And Madam Chair?
Yeah,
I
Commissioner.
just want to note, because if you look at the price tag, it may seem high, but even if we weren't upgrading to this ERP system, a number of these softwares would have needed to be upgraded anyways, and we would have been spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace the current softwares that we're using. So this was just one step to bring us onto a holistic platform, all while replacing aging software.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this system will be talking to each other compared to the current systems that don't talk to each other, which is requiring people to enter the same information 2, 3, 4 times. So I'll make a motion to approve the signatures on statement of work from Sierra Cedar.
I'll second
All
that.
right, motion made by Commissioner Delighten, seconded by Commissioner Batch. Any more discussion? I guess I would just add that it's, this has been a long time in the works, and it'll be so efficient, it'll increase our efficiencies, and like you said, eliminate some of the redundancies and potential errors when you have the redundancies, so. Yeah, Commissioner Ketchmark?
Thank you. I'm looking at page 47 of 52, where there's a lengthy list of roles and costs. Is that the anticipated costs of basically these are all professional services and not county employees, and their labor is going to amount to just over $2.5 million for this part? Is that-
So Madam Chair, Commissioner Ketchmark, what is outlined is the rates for the folks that work for Sierra Cedar, their hourly rate. Again, this is a not to exceed amount that's there. We know in the work that Sierra Cedar has done already with the county, that they are able to provide us the best estimate of what they believe we'll need. We believe that we may not need all of the hours as specified, given some of the pre-work done, but everything specified here is on their side of the house. This does not show the county employees that will be part of the core team that will work through this in implementation.
Now, there's one guy in particular, I think I saw his name on another page, that we're paying, I think we're scheduled to pay like $250,000 for a year. Is that person in this list, or is that over and above this? Isn't there a guy that we're paying like $120,000 for every 6 months?
Are you referencing the project manager, Tony?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. No, he is not included in this. Tony is contracted through On Demand, which is a separate service, which has been budgeted through the IT professional services for the project.
But he is going to be working on phase 2 of ERP, right?
At this point, I have a meeting set up with him pending today's decision to be the project manager for phase 2.
Okay, I'd like in the record somewhere that to reflect that in addition to this, his fees are gonna be attached to this, if that's what you agree or work out, and if he's necessary, right? Because that's kind of a substantial number to add to the 2.5 million, if that's his role.
Well, Madam Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner.
The choice was either you would hire an employee to do that responsibility, but once it's implemented, you really wouldn't have the need or the demand for that employee. And then also having him as an employee, it would be hard to get someone with as robust expertise as that. So it made more sense for us to contract at a higher rate for the short period of time while we need them, and getting somebody that's very competent and very experienced. And then once it's fully implemented, they go on to the next place that's putting an ERP system in. So yes, it seems like a large dollar amount, but when you're looking for a very niche-y, very expertise level of service that you only need for a short period of time, you tend to have to do that.
And thank you, Madam Chair. Just my main point here is that if we're talking about the anticipated costs of phase two, that guy should be in here. If
It's a
that's what
separate
he's doing.
contract, though. He's not, he doesn't work for Sierra Cedar. He's an independent contractor that literally is managing the implementation of it. The Sierra Cedar is kind of the conduit for Oracle in terms of developing the individual modules for the county. So there's three things at play. You have the contract and the purchasing of the ERP system from Oracle. You have the designing and the semi-implementation through Sierra Cedar, and then you have the project manager who is actually doing the conversations back and forth between our staff and Sierra Cedar and making sure that things are happening on a proper time schedule and troubleshooting issues as we find them.
Okay, got it. That, the separation I understand now. It's all about Sierra Cedar, and the independent is independent. So if we're gonna talk about total cost of ERP, we bring him in. If we're talking about Sierra Cedar, then we got 2.5 million potentially. Got it, thank you.
All right. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right. Moving on to advisory committee, advisory board updates. Who would like to start?
I can go,
Yes, Mark?
Madam Chair, thank you. Oh, the Fair Board met, they didn't request anything to be passed along. We're 7 months or so from the next fair, so we're in between fairs.
When's the next fair?
To be announced after you're gone. Next, part of AMC, I went to the public safety meeting, and it's interesting, you got, several counties, there's 87 in the state. We all weren't created equal, but as Ramsey and Hennepin are often referenced in our public meetings, Ramsey Commissioner proposed that kind of be a priority, and there's going to be resolutions sent to county staff to bring to us here in the future. But talking about bail, lowering bail or having no bail and having a balance between equity and public safety, and potentially not having bail for low-level offenses. The question is, what is a low-level offense in Ramsey County may not be considered a low-level offense in Traverse County. You pick it. So I was more in favor of county-specific, and our attorneys have a strong lobby, and there was one there, that they're doing a parallel effort to address this. So it's kind of a redundancy thing. Why are we here? But Ramsey wanted to push that. And the other question is, who is going to decide balance of equity and public safety? It just, one size doesn't fit all with the 87 counties. But we're going to probably, Administrator Kelly's going to see something to bring forward to the board. We tightened up the language a little bit, or maybe loosened it to where we're in favor of taking a look at it, but not necessarily in that way. It's not one size fits all. Safe Schools met in Delno. Things are going pretty well there, nothing county business related. So that's all I had, Madam Chair.
All right, Mr. Glyden.
Yeah, I don't have anything really.
All right, Mr. Vetch.
I was off last week with my family, so I have nothing to report.
Commissioner Wetter.
Okay, South Fork River, Crow River, one watershed, one plan. We reviewed a bunch of the priority issues, and they were ranked according to the measurable 10-year goal. And for instance, say one thing they could, just this one watershed, one plan could address, but then the next tier was something that they would need help from another partner. And then the third tier was something that they shouldn't even look at because somebody was addressing the problem already. So that was sort of interesting to see how they did that type of addressing each issue. And then they also talked about emerging issues, for instance, like salt or something like that that would come up, then they would have to address that right away. But I attended AMC the full time. Sunday night, there was the Ag and Rural Development Forum, and that was interesting because they had the USDA Rural Development State Director and also the USDA Farm Service Agency State Director speak. And they went over a bunch of the projects and programs that they are instigating and putting forward. Then the MRC actually met the lobbyist group now, and the lead is Britta Torkelson, and yes, that is Representative Paul Torkelson's daughter. And I got a chance to talk to her for a while. And then also we was introduced to the 3 other people that will also be helping them lobby. So I think before there was only one person doing MRC lobbying, and I think this will be an added benefit for everything. So the Minnesota Rural Counties is what MRC stands for. Then also, I really enjoyed one of the keynotes, and that was Dr. Peter Cressy, and he talked about crisis and how past people, name brand people like Washington, Lincoln, Churchill and stuff, Roosevelt, they all showed traits of how they addressed that crisis, and those same traits can be used today and compared. And I thought that was interesting because I do love history. So that was neat to see that he could actually pick out ideas on how to address some of those issues.
Yeah, the keynote speakers were great, I thought.
Yes, very good. Then I went to one on shoreline management, and this was something I've felt for a long time. We have all these regulations and deals where you get money to do a certain project. Well, here's one of the Bowser people saying, that's not working, folks. We're not getting the results we should be getting from spending all that money. And I went, what? This is coming from the Board of Water and Soil Resources? And they're actually telling us that what we're doing now isn't working. So what they're proposing yet, how do you get people to think differently and really accept that? And I thought, well, yeah, that's what we've been trying to do, but yet she was talking against education in that. So how do you get through to people that this is supposed to be done? And yes, Mr. Administrator Tom or Mr. Kelly, your mother was there also. I saw her in the crowd, so you might hear from her too about the issues. And then, anyways, that's some of the key things I heard and saw at the AMC convention. Then there was the Mayor's Association meeting, and that was mainly everybody went around and introduced who they were. We met some of the new mayors and said goodbye to some of the old mayors, and that's typically what it was. Highway 55 corridor, grant application to the corridors of commerce. They're trying to get money to go build 4 lanes, I believe, to
That's from
Loretto.
Resurfacing from County Road 118 to County Road 19 with a 2-lane to 4-lane expansion.
And I'll let Commissioner Houston speak more to that, but.
I don't have too much more to add to that, but anyway, yeah.
Oh, and I guess I forgot to say that for AMC, Mary Jo McGrath is now the president, and there was elections on the last few hours of the convention, and a second vice president was actually voted upon, and that was between Rod Peterson and Mike Slavic, and who won was Mike Slavic, and he's from Dakota County, so.
Thank you.
So eventually it works down the line, so he'll eventually be president, I guess.
Administrator Kelly, do you want to go and I'll go last?
Oh, sure. I was just going to mention AMC, but I think that's been well covered here. Did enjoy a lot of the sessions. I thought we had some good topics. Keynote speakers I thought were best this year than previous years, so did enjoy that quite a bit. And just also wanted to touch on our meeting we had with our legislators yesterday. Was very glad we had a good turnout with some of our new legislators that haven't represented us in the past. Some newly elected. A good discussion just on kind of some of the issues that both they are seeing and that we can assist with, as well as what we're working on here at the county. So,
Thank you. Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Oh.
I'm sorry. That might be, Mr. Kelly would have mentioned it, but regarding contract negotiations, we've gotten, if you noticed that on the consent agenda, we approved one, and then we've got a couple more TAs. So things are progressing, and hopefully we'll get them all closed up by the end of the year.
TAs?
Tentative agreement.
tentative
Oh,
agreement.
okay, thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, I guess I should have.
We
So
have lots of
things are
acronyms.
going well, for the most
I was
part.
thinking teacher's assistant?
Yeah.
No.
All right, yeah, thank you. I had a number of meetings, so I attended the AMC conference, and as noted, the speakers' keynotes were really very well versed, and, I mean, really great presenters. I mean, they, there's no pauses, it's just, I mean, they just were really dynamic, I thought. And I attended the same, the Shoreland, and also a few of the other panels and the workshops, and one I thought was, and I'm looking for it, and I can't spot it right now, but Mower County, and essentially they're bringing their employees to become more engaged and the leaders to be more accessible, and it was a really great presentation that they did. And then Buffalo Safe Schools, I attended also, and always good information sharing, and they are also having a presentation, it's called Angst, and raising awareness around anxiety, and that's actually going to be next February 9th, but getting the word out now, but it's a mental health initiative, so that'll be, I think, real important. There's just so much anxiety among kids and adults, so. And as you noted, the Mayor's Association meeting, and I was also at Public Works Labor Management, a lot going in there, and they also discussed their contract is signed. They have a new de-icer that they're making, actually going to be making on site, so that'll save a lot of money with having to buy it. They also have the salt brine in Cokato and Waverly facilities. And the Otsego project is going well. And the Timber Bridge, the last one in Wright County, County Road 2, is going to be improved this next year. As you mentioned, Highway 55 Coalition, we had our two new commissioners that will be both involved with the Highway 55, and actually Tina Dietrich got elected as the vice chair for next year, so she's already involved. And Workforce Center, I have that. We got a clean audit from our auditors, so that was always good, and last meeting for a couple of us, so it's always a little bittersweet. I was at South Haven and Southside Township and Buffalo Township this last week, and Chatham Township tonight, so it's been a busy couple of weeks anyway. But that's about all, and if anyone has more questions or wants to talk about any of these committees in deep, just let me know. So, otherwise, if there's nothing else that needs to come before the board, We're adjourned at 9:55. Thanks, everybody.